Hello, everyone. My name is Mark from the Misplay Podcast, and you're listening to Eternal Journey, everyone's favorite Eternal podcast.
Welcome to Eternal Journey, the podcast.
What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Eternal Journey, the podcast that talks about all things eternal with a focus on limited play. I'm your host, Jedi, and today is episode 51 of the podcast, where we're going to be doing a special two-part series. First is going to be a beginner's draft guide or tutorial for those of you that are coming new to Eternal. Welcome. And part two of the podcast today, we're going to have Draft Champion and final boss or endgame boss for most drafters is an interview with RavenDragon, where we discuss the state of the format as it comes to a close. But first, I want to welcome on the show my good friend Johnholio. How are you doing, buddy?
Hey, I'm great. How you doing, Jedi?
Not too bad, not too bad. I had a good day of drafting today, had some level up moments and stuff like that, so I can't complain. Are you still drafting this format at all, or are you getting ready for the next one?
Yeah, I've definitely been taking a bit of a hiatus here as we're getting set up for the next one. I'm probably gonna do some drafting, starting on Tuesday again when they introduce those 70-ish commons and uncommons into the pool.
Yep. Yeah, we're going to get the pre-release event where, exactly like you said, they're going to introduce or inject some commons and uncommons from Echoes of Eternity to the curated packs. And we're going to go back to Fox curated Fox packs. So
yeah, that was really fun when they did the draft pre-release on the last set. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm psyched up. I am excited about it as well. I wish I could. I had like 25,000 gold hoarded, but sadly when you stream limited you have to stream regardless, or you have to draft regardless. So I'm back down to I think 12,000 now, but we'll see if I can get back up there before Tuesday. Sweet.
Yeah, cool.
All right, so real quick, I want to mention some housekeeping. We have the YouTube channel, Eternal Journey on YouTube, where you can catch the video version of this podcast, as well as draft videos, sealed videos, constructed corner stuff, all kinds of good stuff on there. I also started a new trend in my Eternal Update series, where anytime a new patch note or balance change or anything comes on, I go ahead and go through it and give you my take on it for your listening pleasure, so you guys can stay up to date on what's going on in Eternal. You can check that out once again, Eternal Journey on YouTube. And of course, the Discord. We did mention some new players and some veteran players. If you guys like to talk Eternal and want to get to chat with your friends, get some feedback on maybe a deck or a draft pick or something like that, definitely consider joining the Discord. We are getting up there on people. I think about 140 people are on the Discord right now, which is a great resource. There's hopping and popping, so we're getting there. So you're more than welcome to join. And then finally, you can catch me streaming live every Sunday, Monday, Tuesday at twitch.tv/Jedi_EJ, where I do some cube drafting on Sunday, as well as limited regular drafting on Monday and Tuesday evenings. So closing out our housekeeping is our shout out section. So shout outs, some great people that joined the Jedi Order or resub to the Jedi Order this week. We have Dub Mike, Celtic Guardian 7, Mercurial Blue, and Raid 85. Thank you guys so much for the subs and rejoining or joining the Jedi Order. Really appreciate it. It goes a long way towards helping us do all the good stuff that we do in this channel. And yeah, just being part of the community and let me know that, hey, all this hard work and time that we invest in this is worth it and people are getting something out of it. So thank you guys so much for that. I really do appreciate it. And a big shout out and thank you to all the ongoing subscribers to my Twitch channel. I really appreciate it. You guys are awesome. Okay, so that's it for housekeeping. John, how do you feel about going into our pack one, pick one?
Yeah, let's get right into it.
Sweet. Okay, so I have a bit of a snippet. We're gonna brush through this because obviously this is towards the end. This is probably actually the last pack one, pick one we're gonna be doing for this format. But our guest star RavenDragon did write in her opinion on this pack one, pick one as well. So we're going to go ahead and brush through it really quick. I'll go through the whole pack and then we'll talk about what the picks are. And of course, once again, if you're watching this on YouTube, you are able to see these packs on the screen. So cracking our pack, we have Token of Honor. This is the Fire Justice Primal token. You get, it comes depleted. You get one of each, or you get one of your choosing. We have Eviscerate, the slow spell for 5 Shadow. Kill an enemy unit. Onslaught, the enemy player discards the top 5 cards of their deck. So this is clear front runner right now. We had Fledgling Owlet, the 1/1 flyer, not going to be a thing. Oni Patrol, the 2/1 Onslaught +1/+1 for 1 fire. That's a contention somewhat. Dark Wisp, the 1/1 Entomb, draw a card. Brent Scrying, not going to talk about it. Camp Surveyor, not going to talk about it. Crystal Dirk, +1/+2 weapon. Yeah, moving right along. All right, here we go. Our uncommons, we have Sadistic Ritualist. This is the 1/4 cultist at uncommon for 3-time shadow. Has pledge and then pay to an exhaust Sadistic Ritualist and sacrifice another unit to draw a card. So you're cashing in essentially one of your smaller units to or half a card units to potentially draw a full card. We have Unseen Ghostblade. This is the +4/+4 relic weapon for 6 justice. Has Onslaught, play an Emerald Incarnation with attack and health equal to the number of spells in your void. This card's obviously a decent finisher in most decks. And then we have Twin Brood Sauropod. This one has a definitely strong opinions about it in the limited format. This is a 5/4 dinosaur at uncommon for 5-time. And then it has Echo. That's it, plain and simple. You get 2 big units for the price of 1. And then our rare is Tinker Innervator. This is a 2/4 at rare Tinker. I guess, I don't think there's a Tinker tribal. There are Tinkers, but I don't think it's a tribal yet. And then we have, I guess with Mask Maker, like Tinker tribal. Booyah. I don't even know what Tinkers care about. What do they care about? Relics?
Most of them do something with armor, but this one actually doesn't.
Yeah, okay, fair. Yeah, this one's like some weird counter. I don't know. Tinks,
Yeah.
I guess they're like the redheaded stepchilds of Eternal. They just don't have a home. And it's 3 and justice. Yeah, 3 justice. And then it reads, when a unit emerges or unit with charge is played, it gets -3 attack this turn. It just kind of stops the whole emerge and charge thing on both sides of the board. All right, so obviously it's going to be Unseen Ghostblade, Twin Brood Sauropod, and Eviscerate are the top runners. Do you have any arguments with those top 3, John?
No, those are definitely the top 3 cards in this pack. I mean, you also might consider Oni Patrol and Ritualist in some world, but I mean, I think those are a step below these other 3 cards for sure.
Yeah. All right. So what are you thinking? What's your logic behind these?
Well, for me, it's between Eviscerate and Sauropod more than anything. Like Ghostblade is fine for removal, but I mean, Eviscerate's just a kind of a cleaner removal. It's less splashable, but Shadow's proven to be pretty deep in this format, so no problem with first picking an Eviscerate. And then same with Time. I'm always happy to be pretty deep into Time, and it's also the faction with more fixing. So if that's your main color, you still have more options as far as the rest of your deck is concerned. So yeah, it's definitely between Eviscerate and Sauropod for me.
Okay. All right. Let's look and see what RavenDragon said. So RavenDragon said, only 2 cards in contention for me, Twin Brood Sauropod and Eviscerate. No surprise there. Both are good, but my tendency to lean into Time. I would take the Twin Brood. It is 2 large units for 1 and can be even more than that if I have other ways to draw it again or duplicate. Eviscerate is always good as removal is scarce, but pack one, pick one, I would take the unit. And I gotta say, I'm kind of on there with RavenDragon. There are very few cards that I would take over clean removal like Eviscerate, especially in pack one, pick one, because you do have to be willing to get rid of that, because this is the pick that has the least amount of information. But I really do. I think the fact that Twin Brood gives you 2 units, essentially 2 relevant cards for the price of 1, really goes a long way for me. And there is things like Twinning Ritual and Immortalize and things where you can really capitalize on that echo effect. So I think there's very few like medium or big units that would take over Eviscerate, but I think Twin Sauropod, especially kind of being the same casting cost, one stops you from dying, the other one can potentially stop you from dying, but also help you win. Yeah, I think I'd probably err on the side of Twin Brood here as well. Are you still split down the middle, or do you have a preference?
No, I'm right there with you guys. I would first pick this Twin Brood Sauropod over Eviscerate.
Yeah, but it is close. I do think there is some serious
close.
consideration for it as well. And it's something to consider, which isn't that big of a deal. But I have noticed lately, and we'll get into that a little bit later, that time has been drying up for me. I used to see time all the time, and was very big into Praxis. And here lately, I'm seeing less and less time go in, where it's almost more of a splash or a support color for me versus a primary.
Mm-hmm.
So that might make me a little weary, but yeah, Twin Brood Sauropod is just so powerful that you pretty much slam dunk it every time.
Yeah, you're not seeing these drafts with like 5 and 6 Gyarados favorites being passed to you these days.
Yeah, no, the jig is up. Everyone knows what's going down, and they're a hot commodity. If you see one, like, it used to be like, hey, there's a sign. Yep, nope, that was just they picked something stronger or rare, and that's it.
Yep.
Okay, all right. So with that, that'll do it. Let's go ahead and go into our main topic. So what's going on is we're seeing an influx of players into Eternal. Don't know why. I'm not sure if this is just the natural ebb and flow, but we are seeing a lot of players, a lot of new players streaming, a lot of new players just hanging out in streams. And for example, I just released a Forge tutorial on YouTube, and that had a fantastic following or reaction from the community. And so we decided to, in the midst of a new set coming out, to do kind of a bit of a generic primer. So I do encourage you guys, if you are veteran drafters, that this might be just a clean review for stuff you already know, but you can also stick around for RavenDragon's interview towards the end after that. Another thing to talk about is that we will at some point, I believe our next 4 or 5 podcasts are locked up with our standard new set stuff, but we're probably going to be doing a tips and tricks and level up episode shortly after our first impressions. So be on the lookout for that as well. So if you do have a tip or trick that you'd like to share with us, by all means, jump on the Discord, link down below in the description, and let us know personally, both Johnholio, myself, and Darth Herman too. Okay, so with that, we're going to start at the very beginning, which is what a asynchronous draft is, and how it costs, because that is how drafting works on Eternal, which, believe it or not, I believe is extremely unique to any collectible card game that I've seen. Granted, I've only played a limited amount of them. There are some new popping up, but that is neither here nor there. John, why don't you take us away and explain how drafting initially works for Eternal?
Sure. So I just want to start this off by saying I love drafting Eternal. It's my favorite mode by far. It's the reason I got so into this game to begin with. It's really cool. And like you said, it's kind of a unique way that they have this set up. It's different than other card games I've played. So basically, you can enter without any, you can use the free currency in the game, gold. It takes 5,000 gold to enter into a draft. And then we'll talk about the rewards a bit later. But so the cost is either 5,000 gold, or correct me if I'm wrong, but is it, how much gems is it, Jedi? You use gems on this more than I do.
500.
Is it 500? Okay, that's what I was thinking.
I will double check while you do that, but I'm almost positive. Now that you put me on the spot, but I'm pretty sure it's
Yeah, I'm mostly a free-to-play player. I don't know if I've ever actually spent gems on a draft, but it is possible. And if you draft a lot, it's inevitable, basically. But yeah, there's an upfront cost to it, but you can basically... It is 500. All right, good to know. So you pay this upfront cost, and then you get to do a draft. And a draft means you're going to open up 4 packs, and every card that you pick out of those packs, you get to keep for your collection. So, and there's also some rewards you can earn based on how well you do during your games in the draft. But essentially, a normal pack in Eternal is what, 1,000 gold. So you almost, it almost just pays for itself just on the surface. Although you're kind of paying a slight premium of 1,000 extra gold over just 4 packs. But if you're literally just doing stuff for your collection, people tend to pass rares and things like that. So you can really get more shift stone, which lets you craft any card you want. So I mean, the value proposition for draft is already pretty great.
Yeah, and then
if
obviously,
you're-
like you mentioned, you have the chance to get rewards later on, which will outweigh the extra 1,000 gold you paid initially.
Yeah, I think what if you win like 0 games, do you still get 2 silver chests? Is that right?
Yes.
So that's like about 500 gold. So basically 4,500 gold are not, at the very least worth the value that you get. And that's, assuming that you maybe only pick the rare out of all 4 packs and just skip on the ones being passed around to you too. So, I mean, basically you're always going to at least do just as good for yourself as if you just bought, packs for your gold. So I think the value proposition is really good as a baseline. And then if you do well in the draft, it only gets better from there.
One thing to add on that too, that is also putting 0 value to enjoying playing as well, right?
Sure. Like, yeah, it's my favorite mode. I mean, I love it.
Well, I mean, but that's what I'm saying. Like you could say if we're just looking at bare numbers, then yes, you're paying, you get minimum 4,500 gold back for playing. But some of us like you and I that value the enjoyment, like honestly, the gold is fine. I'm glad I'm getting something back, but getting something back is really just how many more drafts can I do,
Exactly.
So that is something, there is absolutely nothing wrong. If you just straight up like drafting, hey, spend the gold and draft, and it's a ton of fun.
Yeah. But then there's some people that, would normally maybe they hate draft, or maybe they've never even tried it, but maybe they have and they just don't enjoy the limited experience. And, even for those people, it's basically still better than just buying packs for gold, in my opinion. So
did you explain the timing on the asynchronous draft?
No, not yet. So the way the packs and the actual drafting works is you have like all the time in the world. Like there's no timers at any step of the way until you start playing your games. You open a pack yourself, and then you essentially pass it to a person that may draft tomorrow, they may draft a week later. It's basically stored on the Direwolf servers for another time, and you're getting packs passed to you in the same way. Like they've already gone through 1 to 14 players. How many cards are in a pack? Is it 12? 12, my bad. So 11 players have seen these packs in front of you too. At another time. And so that's what they mean by asynchronous. You're not sitting at a virtual table with these players all drafting at the same time. It's all just kind of stored on the servers. And because of that, there's no, what they call wheeling in like a traditional Magic table draft where you're sitting there with players and the packs go around the table and you end up seeing the first pack that you passed along the way. That can't happen due to the nature of asynchronous drafting. So that's basically what they mean by asynchronous. It's real players that you're passing to and are getting these packs passed from, but it's at a totally different time. So no time limit. So you can take all the time you want on the drafting portion, which is really cool. For newer players, that enables you to get a lot of feedback if you feel like you need it, or go look up some draft guides or things like that while you consider your picks. And so the beauty of this system is not only that there's no time limits, but the signals that you end up getting from the packs are coming from real players and not like bots. I don't know if you've tried like Magic Arena drafting, Jedi, but I am not a fan of bot drafting is what I've learned.
I tried it for about a week, and then honestly what ended up happening is that every time I was playing, I was like, why am I not just playing Eternal?
Yeah,
I mean, honestly, I'm just being real with it. So I honestly uninstalled it. I was like, why does this even take up space on my computer? Like, forget this.
And we're both people who love the game of Magic.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So that 100%. Says a lot, right?
Yeah. I mean, shoot, we cube drafted Magic when you came to visit, so
yeah.
All right.
And I mean, I would draft it all the time if it was like Eternal, but it's not. They use bots, and it's just not the same as this the experience you get when you're passing to and from real players. And so because of this system, there's some signals that we'll talk about in a minute that are kind of built into the pack design. But like I said, the packs don't wheel like in a traditional Magic draft. So like the signals are a little different.
Okay. So real quick before we go into the actual drafts and things like that, I just want to give a big overview picture. The way all drafts work is that it is Swiss. So win or lose, you play. Well, actually, I take that back. It's not Swiss because you actually have a limit on either how many wins or how many losses you get. You can play either until you generate 3 losses or 7 wins, whichever comes first. So if you go up to every time you win, you generate a higher level of reward at the end of the draft. It starts off, like Johnholio said, at 2 silver chests, and then every time you win, it goes up to another silver chest, then 2 silver chests and a gold, then 2 golds and a silver, etc., all the way up to triple diamond, triple platinum, right?
Something I think they're diamond.
Diamond. Okay. And of course, just like in your regular constructed games, you have a chance of an upgrade. There have been chances where you might get 3 golds and then one of them gets upgraded to a diamond, so you get some money back that way. And you get your standard rewards. They're pretty simple. Of course, like John said earlier, you do get to keep all your packs and all the cards you drafted. So the downside to this is obviously that if you go 0-3, then you're automatically done and that draft is over. You cannot play it again. So that is something to consider, but obviously there's so much variance and stuff. I want to get your head up in a knot just because you went 0-3. I've done it. I'm sure John, I don't know if you've done it, John, but I go 0-3.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. And sometimes you go 0-3 with your most busted deck and it's all right. The goal is...
it happens to us all.
Yeah, if you're a starting player, I say the good thing is when you're starting off, it does a very good job of pairing you against other players that don't have as many games under their belt. So you have a higher chance of learning on the same curve as somebody else versus later on when you have a lot more games and you're going to get matched up with the same great people over and over again. But don't get discouraged. Just try to generate some gold and draft again. But once again, there's an achievement for winning just 7 wins. And then you obviously get more achievements for going 7-0. I will tell you this. I've been drafting for Eternal about 14 months and I have 4 7-0s to my name. I think people like John and maybe Hats on Lamps and Ben Gracier might have a lot more under their belt, but it is Cassandra. There you go. Kalebovich probably have some more wins like that. But once again, it is a good challenge to have and a lot of fun. And then, of course, the good news is if you go 6 wins, you break even on your investment. And if you're not counting your cards, like you get your gold back. And then if you go 7 wins, you actually are up gold to potentially draw again. So, I mean, you can't beat that kind of generosity coming from a game like this, where in most games, there's no way to get your money back. And here you have a chance to actually make more than you spent. So,
yeah, most games, it's either you keep the cards or you have a chance to get your money back. In this game, it's literally both. It's so generous.
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. But all right, so once again, just to recap on that, you play up until 7 wins or 3 losses, whichever comes first. Okay, so John, go ahead and break down the pack order as well as the pack instruction for our listeners.
Okay, so the current format until literally a couple days from now is you start with what's called a draft pack. And these draft packs are curated packs, basically, from kind of throughout Eternal's history, but they're in line with the expedition constructed format is how they're kind of doing it these days.
Well, for right now, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, we don't know exactly what that's going to look like, coming up here, but for now, it's one of these draft packs. And then when you open one of these packs, it's 12 cards, and you're always guaranteed either a rare or a legendary in the first slot, and then 3 uncommons, and then the rest are commons. Like, that's always consistent. And let's see here. So there's, like I said, there's 12 cards. And the pool for these draft packs is massive. So there's going to be a lot of variance in that pack one, as far as like when you are drafting multiple times. And then packs 2 and 3 are going to be from the most current set, which right now is Fox. They have the same make rare or legendary, 3 uncommons, and then the rest commons again. And so that's packs 2 and 3 are that format. And then pack 4 is again just like the first pack. It's one of these draft packs. And so when you open one of these packs, you're presented with, like I said, 12 cards, and then you select one of those to add to your draft pool. And then that pack goes, into like I said earlier, into the bank, or basically onto the next person, and then you get one from someone else from another time with 11 cards, and they may have taken any card in that pack, right? They could have taken the rare, or they could have taken a common that's just really good in draft, and that's up to them, right? But based on that, you might start seeing signals and things like that. But so every time you pick a card, it's just you're gonna get another pack that's come down a line of players with one less card in it until you finish that pack and then go on to pack 2.
Just to put an evergreen on it for anyone that, if they listen to this podcast, months down the line, the general scheme of maneuver right now that we've seen in Eternal is you're going to be drafting 4 packs. The first and fourth pack are going to be the same, and the second and third packs are going to be the same. Now, they can normally change, and that's what John was talking about. So to start a format, whenever a new set comes out, typically the way they do it, the packs 1 and 4 are going to be of the current set, with the draft or curated packs being set packs 2 and 3, which those could be completely at Direwolf's discretion. They normally post on their website updates on what cards are included in that pool, and then typically they shake up the format halfway through the format. They'll end up flipping the order, making the curated packs 1 and 4 like we're seeing now, and packs 2 and 3 being the current draft set.
Right.
Do you want to go over the faction thing real quick that you realized before we go into drafting?
Yeah, so like I said earlier, these packs don't wheel, right? So you can't get a traditional signal like in a live draft where like you look at this whole pack of 12 cards and notice like, hey, these other people are taking all the purple cards or all the all the yellow cards or anything like that, because packs don't wheel because of the asynchronous nature. So what Direwolf has done is they guarantee certain aspects about the makeup of these packs. I already mentioned the makeup is guaranteed to be a rare or legendary, 3 uncommons and the rest commons. But on top of that, there's also guaranteed to be one card that is completely one of each of the 5 colors. So it's guaranteed to have a time card, a justice card, a primal card, and so on and so forth. And that can include like a playable unit or weapon or any kind of card like that, but it can also include things like power cards, like for example, in the newer set, they have those emblems. So like a shadow emblem can be the shadow card in the pack, for example. And so with that in mind, you can kind of read some signals as far as at least the first few picks in any given pack. You can notice like, hey, this second pack I'm looking at already doesn't have a time card in it. And so you can see right then and there that the person behind you is drafting time. Now, if that time card was the rare or legendary, you may not actually be able to read into that too much because they could just be rare drafting, right? But that's how signals are built into these draft packs and the asynchronous nature of the packs. So it's one way to kind of steer your draft, and by seeing what factions are open, you'll end up getting a higher average power level for the cards that you pick for your pool. So being in that open lane is an important thing in any draft format, and it's definitely important in Eternal.
Yep, and John touched on it, calling it the open lane, or identifying your lane is how it's commonly referred to. And what this means is, for example, just in layman terms, if the person that is passing to you is picking fire cards and you are picking fire cards as well, they are always going to take the better fire card before you see it. So even though there might be enough fire cards in the overall packs for you both to draft it, your deck is going to inherently be worse off than theirs because they are seeing the best cards first before you are. So
that's a great way to put it.
So when you identify your lane is you look and you're like, you know what? I see an okay fire card. I see an okay shadow card, but man, this justice card is very strong. I'm really surprised that 2 people did not pick this before me. So that might be an indicator that maybe justice is open, quote unquote. So if you take that card, right? Now all of a sudden, if you're correct, let's say two cards later, you see another medium red, you know, a bad shadow, and then a really good justice card. You're like, so now you know that justice is open. So what this means is instead of fighting over just shadow or fire cards and getting what's second or third rate, you are getting the premium justice card. And so your deck is going to be better at a overall, like John said, an overall higher power level because you're not fighting over specific cards with other players. So that's what identifying your lane is. Now, the one way we have to break down or do card evaluation. Now, we do go into depth on this in our set reviews, which will be coming out soon. So you can look back at our previous history at our commons and uncommon set review to see how we evaluate cards. But we will give you a quick crash course. One of the things I like to use, I know some people consider this outdated, but I think this still stands true, is fantastic algorithm for beginners, which is using the BREAD acronym. And what this means is you are looking for bombs, which are super powerful cards that could win you the game. You're looking for removal, obviously kill spells to get rid of your opponent's bombs. Any unit evasion, any units that have flying, unblockable, things like that. Aggressive. All right, so cards that will help you win the game if you are trying to attack your opponent and get in there. And then, of course, lastly, you have your duds or your defensive units, the cards that you really don't want to have in your deck and or just stop you from, or slow down, or stop you from dying. So, John, do you want to talk about this a little bit real quick?
You basically covered it at a bird's eye view level there. Yeah, that's basically like the order that you can think about for picking cards out of any given pack, right? In the order you mentioned, and that the acronym for that is BREAD, right? Bombs, removal, evasion, aggressive stuff, and then duds, like you said. So, you know, if you like acronyms, there you go. But so if you look at a pack and you see a bomb and you see a removal in that pack, you generally would take the bomb. If you open the pack and there's no bombs, but there's a removal, well, you probably take the removal and things like that. And those generally will get picked up first. So that also kind of goes in line with what we just talked about seeing an open lane. Yeah,
it's a good basis to go off. Obviously, there's other things that go into it, like, you know, synergies and maybe the archetype you like to go around and things like that, splash colors, etc. But that's a good solid base for beginners to stick with. So you have a very solid deck. One of the things I also like to do is typically try to stick to 2 colors. A lot of people you get kind of wrapped around picking all the best cards. And that kind of, if you're trying to build your collection, that's perfectly right. But sometimes you get a little too greedy with your deck. You'll hear people say that their deck is very greedy. So you do want to consider things like your power curve, which we'll talk about in a little bit, as well as just sticking to like 2 colors. And then if you just have something that's super great, in fact, don't even worry about splashing. Don't even worry about it. You're starting off, just try to stick to 2 colors the best you can. If you end up picking a 3rd color, that's fine. Just make sure your power base can accommodate it. And if not, you know, just be an adult about it and realize like, hey, I probably shouldn't be playing this 3rd color. I've done it plenty of times. You've been with me on stream, John, where I've had 3 colors and had some really good cards and then looked in the deck and be like, do we really need to splash this? And, you know, sometimes it's yes, go ahead and splash it. Sometimes it's like, no.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And some formats, you know, some draft formats it's easier to have 3 or more colors, but this one, it's not so easy in my experience. It's definitely possible, but especially if you're starting off, you usually want to stick to the 2 most open factions as you're drafting.
All right. And the last thing that you should take into consideration, not only while drafting but also after you are done drafting, is your deck construction. So John, break down what an average limited deck or draft deck should look like?
Sure. So yeah, like you say, this is an average deck. Like this can all be kind of plus or minus, depending on a lot of factors. But for the most part, an Eternal draft deck, it's 45 total cards, as opposed to like normal constructed where it's 75. And it's typically between 17 and 19 power cards, somewhere around 18 units, and then somewhere around 10 cards that are in between the spells and attachments categories. Typically, you hope your stronger spells and things like that are removal, and most decks, I feel like, especially in this current format, end up with more spells over attachments, but somewhere around 10 of those. And yeah, like I kind of said, these numbers are all a little flexible, but that's like your average draft deck, I feel like, for this Eternal draft format.
Yeah, and then obviously these knobs can be adjusted, give or take. You can go down to 16 power if your deck's curve is very low. If you have a lot of decimate, you have high power, you can go higher. Unit counts change, especially if you have spells that create units and things like that, and spells and attachment based on removal or curses and things like that. So these are all adjustable. And speaking of which, the last thing we are going to talk about this is that remember that you can also experiment and or adjust your deck in between draft games. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. You are not locked into that deck. It is a tournament somewhat, but kind of casual tournament. So if you find out, hey, this card is not good, or like, hey, I keep getting stuck on power, you feel free to go back and revise your deck in between these games to try to maximize your win percentage as well as your learning experience.
For an example of that, when the Fox format first came out, the card, was it Stand Strong? Is that +3/+3 and
Exalted,
Life Steal and Exalted? Well, I think like a lot of people, they tried to play that card at fast speed during their first game, and then went back and cut it from their deck after that first game, and put in something else, maybe even just a power card. Sometimes during that first game you realize like, hey, this card doesn't really do what I thought it did, and so like, right, that's where you go and modify your deck a little bit. For an example.
Yeah, I think I'm starting to get really bored with the format because I keep looking at that card and trying to experiment in my head how, like, theory crafting how I think I can like exploit it, whether it's on a Berserk unit or in the Winchest Sacrifice deck or something like that. I'm like, how can I abuse this card? Because it can't be horrible, but yeah, it kind of really is.
Right. But that's one of those where, everybody kind of misread that, I feel like, the first time they played it, right? So
yeah, but see, here's the thing. For example, the draft deck we had today had 2 Combust in it and 2 Marsh Dragons. So I feel like I could see a world. I mean, maybe not so much with Marsh Dragon, but if you cast that the same turn you cast Combust, it's only 3 power for a removal spell, which is the same, but you're getting an additional bonus out of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's that particular card, right? It's like you're just kind of putting all your eggs in a basket, right? That's like a risk with any kind of, it's basically an attachment, right? You're just doing a permanent buff onto a card and just hoping it can stick, right? So, but it's kind of like a 2-card combo. It's just a little difficult to set up. Like all these pieces have to line up. So, but I just think a lot of people thought that was like a fast spell, right? Like,
oh well, yeah. You mean if they respond to the +3/+3, right?
Well, there's that, and then just, I mean,
because there's
once
no
you
window
put
for
all
the
your
combust.
eggs in one bag.
Yeah.
No, but it's just putting all your eggs in a basket, right? Like you're losing the unit, but then you spend another card to just make that unit a little bit better. So it's essentially just a weapon as far as Eternal stuff goes.
Fair.
That's just kind of a risky proposition. It's it's like a cheeky 2 or 3 card combo, right? It's just a little hard to pull off, and in a draft game, the chances that all those pieces line up perfectly for you to pull it off, the chances are not great. So
fair. All right.
Big tangent, but
yeah, we digress. All right, let's move on. All right. So do you have any closing statements for our beginner drafters?
We didn't really talk about your deck's curve or anything like that. that stuff kind of follows along normal card game, an Eternal kind of not schematics, but you know what I'm trying to say, as far as your deck's normal
architecture,
things like that. Yeah, your architecture. Yeah, sure. So that's just another consideration for while you're drafting and while you're building your deck, right? Like as you're going along the draft, like when you're in packs 3 and 4, you definitely want to take a look at your pool. And I mean, at some point, there's a chance that you might have to pass on a expensive card just for curve considerations, right? Like it's important that when you queue into a draft game, you get to actually play a draft, right? You don't want to sit there staring at your 7 and 8 cost cards all in your hand and not ever get to play a card and just lose the game. So curve is an important consideration as well.
Yeah, very true. Very good point. Very good point. All right. So with that being said, let's give us one last thing about having average 2 drops and 5+ drops should they have, just to put them on the 2 sides of the spectrum real quick.
Yeah, this is kind of a format where it tends to get to 6 power more often than like certain prior formats I've played in. So I don't know, like somewhere between, I don't know, maybe like 4 and 7, 5 and 6 drops or something like that, and then somewhere between like 6 and 8. 2 and 3 drops, and then there's not a lot of good 4 drops honestly in this format, but a couple of those too. What do you think? Do those numbers sound about right off the top of your head?
I've gone a little greedy and gone like 5+ drops, but that starts to make me sweat a little bit, not gonna lie. I think Grodov's Favorite has kind of tweaked the format a little bit.
Right, that's the big outlier.
But I mean, well, you have the Hellkite, you have the 7/4 dragon, right? The 7/4 that pings them, everyone pings them when they come into play, and then you have like Kodov sees all, and then you have I feel like there's one other card that's expensive somewhere.
But yeah, I mean, normally you want to be around 4 and 5, like 5+ drops, but
yeah, this format's unique for sure. But I do agree with your 2 drops.
Weird.
I think 6 to 8 is good on 2 drops, because you could definitely get ran over in this format as well.
And like 1 drops are in that 2 drop category, basically. Like,
yep.
There's not a lot of really solid 1 drops, but I mean, those are basically 2 drops, and considering your curve. So I mean, you don't want 2 1 drops and 8 2 drops, right? You're kind of going to be a little overloaded there on the low end, unless you're just playing an extremely aggressive deck and all those cards are high impact 1 and 2 drops. I mean, that's a little bit of a unique situation, but your average deck we're talking about anyway.
All right, I think that put a bow on it, so we'll move on to part 2 of today's show, which is state of the format, as well as an interview with top drafter RavenDragon. Like I said earlier, she's been the end boss for many of people in drafts. I come across her at least once a stream. She's absolutely fantastic, very skilled, typically sits at about top 20. I think she drops down a little bit because she likes to draft a lot. I don't think she's near Cosimo's level, but she's definitely up there. But she was kind enough to do a written interview for us to be on the show, and so hopefully I hope you guys enjoy it. So let's get into a little background on RavenDragon. RavenDragon has been playing all formats since closed beta. I started really playing a lot in draft about a year ago. I've always loved the draft format, being a previous MTG and MTGO online player, but I really started in Eternal Draft after watching Man und Maus on stream a lot. And I gotta say, I feel like we've all been that way. I think he retired now. I'm not really sure. I haven't seen him on at all, but man, Mum was pretty much all day, every day during the week, right?
His streams were so good. Like, he was on all the time when I was picking up Eternal, like she said, about a year ago. I really miss Mom streams. I hope he's doing all right. My understanding, he had some kind of health problems and things like that, and had to step away. But we all hope that he makes a triumphant return at some point. But yeah, he was a prolific and fantastic drafter. Learned a lot from watching his streams.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. So no surprise there that she picked up a couple of things and was also motivated. I too watched Mom. I didn't know it was health reasons. Well, shoot, I'll send some good vibes his way. He does definitely make a recovery. All right, next up, what has been your favorite format thus far? So, of course, she was playing since closed beta, so she's been around for a minute. And she says, there have been so many changes to the formats. I am not sure which number my favorite format is, but the most recent format prior to the draft packs being changed to include all the expedition cards that we had strangers in the curated packs is probably my favorite. I call it the 5 color goodness format, and it's allowed playing 5 faction decks. All right, so yeah, I think this was any
right
veteran
before Fox.
Yeah, I think this is any veteran drafters premium set. Ben Gracier talked high about it. Patumaro, I know you.
It was a fun one.
I know you and Alex both were high on it. Like just drafting all the greed, 5 color goodness. Man,
yeah, and then the fixing was there to actually play those fun cards. Yeah, it was a fun format.
Oh yeah, it was absolutely
my personal favorite, but maybe my second favorite.
Yeah, it was absolutely preposterous, the kind of shenanigans you can go on. I actually hated that format because I pride myself on being able to play around things, and it was absolutely impossible to play around anything because I'm like, oh, they have 4 factions and they have 3 power-ups, so it could be a list of 30 different combat tricks and removal spells. Great.
Yep.
And then I'm like, do I use my kill spell on this? Do I not? Like, is this their bomb? Do they have 3 more bombs? Like, what is going on?
Probably, yeah.
And then, me being the conservative drafter, I'm like staying in this lane. I'm like, oh, sweet. I have this awesome, like, Argenport deck. And people are like, 5 color bomb, bomb, bomb. I'm like, yeah, about that. And then I did
I understand why you weren't as high on that format as some others, for sure.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I enjoyed it. I still had fun. But, like, some people were, like, running around, this is Magic Christmas Land. And I'm just like, what is going on here? And then I try to draft 5 colors, and there's, like, not enough fixing. Or I take all the fixing and get no bombs. So my deck is just 5 color mediocre. Oh, God, that format. But, yeah, I can understand a skilled player like RavenDragon or yourself at being absolutely, just having a kid in a candy store with all the great stuff going on.
Yep.
Okay, so if you had to take a guess, what do you think RavenDragon's preferred archetypes to draft are? Just name
archetype.
Name a 2-color faction.
Combray?
Give me another one.
Ricano?
Okay, let's find out. Without a doubt, Praxis, Xenon, and Stone Scar. So
I'm completely wrong.
I mean, would you say Combray and Ricano?
I said Combray and Ricano.
Yeah, I mean, you got time and fire.
They share some colors,
yeah.
But
All right. The current format has many good cards in time and can be paired well with both fire and shadow. Also, these are the factions with the most of the dragons, which are always good top-end finishers. Yeah, she's not wrong. I find myself being happy to take a Cinder Dragon or 2. Obviously, like we mentioned earlier, that 7/4 Dragon for 7 is a great finisher, closes out the game very early. And Mars Dragon has been overperforming for me, to be completely honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
Where are you at on
Plus,
time?
I was just going to say, also, her name's RavenDragon, so I'm not surprised she's into dragons. So
I mean, she could also take my arch nemesis Wretched Raven as well. I would still fall in her name.
True.
Thank God she doesn't. God, I would. Yeah, wait till you guys get to the Sunset Show, which is actually our next one. You guys are. I'm gonna get on the soapbox for sure about that card. We talked about it before the show. We're gonna talk about it on that show for sure.
The Get Wrecked Raven.
Yeah, no joke. Only in Jedi's world. It's like a Sith. It's a Sith Raven. That's what it is. Sith Raven in disguise.
Yeah, probably.
What's your favorite card to draft ever? Not a popular card, but Heretics Cannon. Cannon was insanely powerful in draft. Probably too powerful. And on any evasive or overwhelm unit, it is a win. Close second to cannons are Mighty Strike and Bottoms Up. The surprise damage is fun and often wins unexpected games. So I gotta say, there is something to that though. First off, I agree with her and you. Mighty Strikes and Bottoms Up were absolutely fantastic cards. Mighty Strikes was insane before the nerf, where it was actually 2 to cast and 2
Mhm.
to amplify, and then they bumped it up to, wait, was it always 3 and just 2 to amplify, or wait, what's
I think it was 2 to cast, 3 to amplify, and then they changed it to 3 and 3. I might be wrong.
no, I almost, is it amplify? Is amplify the word I'm looking for, or is it something
Yeah,
else?
amplify is the mechanic,
Okay, cool. Just making sure because I was drawing a
I
blank now.
think.
Oh god.
But yeah, I mean, Mighty Strikes is basically the spell version of Heretic's Cannon.
Yeah, that card, it's so difficult to play around. Like, but the thing is, when you got blown out by Mighty Strikes, like, you just shrugged, you know what I mean? It wasn't anything you did wrong. Like, every once in a
Right.
while you could read them to have Mighty Strikes every once in a while, but most of the time it was just like, okay, like, there's no way to play around Mighty Strikes because they can get the +2/+2 and overwhelm however they want. So based on how you block, they're like, okay, I'll put +4/+4 in the same unit, or I'll put +2 here and +2 there, you know? It's just,
Yeah. She has good taste. Those are fantastic draft cards. Some of my favorites as well. I definitely mentioned Heretic's Cannon as like a runner-up for my favorite in our what was it, the 50 special where we talked about a lot of our favorites and
yep,
things like
yep.
that.
Yeah,
So, I agree.
and Heretic's Cannon can steal games, but at the very least, it made the pain so quick. It was like ripping out a Band-Aid. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It was like,
Yeah,
oh no,
just get it over with.
Yeah, it's like, oh no, they have Heretic's Cannon. Oh, I'm dead. Okay, move on to the next game. Like, you know what I mean?
Yep. And if your deck also had a Heretic's Cannon in it, you can't feel too bad about getting cannoned. Like, you were trying to do the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. You know that if you had a chance to pick a cannon, you would. So it is what it is.
Live by the cannon, die by the cannon.
Ooh, I like that. That should be a bumper sticker for the. Maybe we start making merch for Eternal Journey. That'll be one of them. It'll be like, EJ, live by the cannon, die by the cannon. I like that.
But yeah, for some people that's like a hated card. No, I'm with Raven. I liked it.
And then, hey, sometimes it's swung from behind where, like, you're winning this game and all of a sudden your opponent Heretic's Cannon and they win all of a sudden. Like, that's a feel good moment to tell your friends, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get into some Fox specific stuff. So Flame of Zolta specific. What faction are you most wanting to be in and why? Almost always Time. I think Time in the current draft has some of the best cards as well as fixing for other colors, which allows pivoting into other colors and splashing. Rodolph's favored, Trailmaker, Learned Herbalist. With that said, I try not to force a faction if the cards are not there. Tough part, the interesting thing about Time is that even though it does have some double time cards that are powerful, a lot of the time cards, that a decent amount of them are single time, so it does make them very easy to splash. So it's hard to be like, am I forcing it? Am I not? You know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, especially with so many predominant things like the tokens and Bannermen, that, you know, a 6-drop, a single cost 6-drop is completely feasible to splash. And so that's why we're seeing Grodov's favored all over the place. But as we mentioned earlier, I don't remember now if we said it online or off the air, but I do feel like the jig is up on Time, and I'm seeing less and less time cards going late nowadays than I used to before.
Yeah, I agree.
How about you? Do you still like drafting Time? Or are you looking for other colors, or what's up?
You know, I like didn't want to be as into Time as I have been in this format. Just, it's not my favorite faction normally or anything, but it really just, she hit the nail on the head. It's kind of got it all. It's like a do everything kind of faction. It's got a lot of value all the way up the curve. And a lot of those good cards, like she said, are single influence and splashable, or like, if your main Time, it helps you splash other colors. Like, it's just such a deep color, and just generally like high power level faction. Like, yeah, I'm kind of with it. Like, yeah. I think Time has turned out to be probably my favorite faction to draft in this format.
Plus, I mean, let's just be honest, there's some sick game winning rares and legendaries in Time as well.
Yeah, there are. Yeah, I mean, look at Marizo, for example. He drafted today, like Striking Snake formation.
Yeah,
those are both kind of fun cards too. It's not just like boring old Time. Like, those are some pretty spicy ones.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right.
So, yeah.
Do you have an overall strategy in which you draft this set? I think staying open is my best strategy. I tend to not set myself in colors until at least after around the first 15 cards, unless there is a total bomb in the first pack. This is hard for me as I derail and sometimes end up with good cards in multiple factions without fixing to support it. On the other hand, there are so many cards in created packs, it is really hard to read signals in the first pack. So I tend to just take the best cards in the pack and try to read signals in the first Fox pack or pack 2. And I think the current format is open to a lot of different strategies, but none work without units. Is this similar or different from how you draft, John?
That's pretty similar. You know, I it's exactly right. Like, you don't want to just be married to your first few picks. You want to, you know, stay open, kind of like we talked about in the beginner section too. I mean, that's an advanced technique as well. You know, great drafters look for signals and try to be in that open lane. And you know, like she said, it happens to me too, right? Like, sometimes you kind of derail yourself a little bit, and you get a little too many powerful cards and too many factions, and don't end up with the fixing. Like that, you know, that kind of stuff happens to everybody. So yeah, it's nice to hear that as great of a drafter as Raven is, that she falls into the same pitfalls too, like me. So
yeah, sometimes
it's comforting.
There have been times where I've drafted and I'm like, I have no idea what's going on. What are they taking? What are they passing to me? And you know, you just have various skill sets being passed to you. And so it's hard. You're not always, sometimes you're clear cut, like, oh yeah, 100% Stone Scar is open. We're in it. We're good to go. And you're getting those signals and you're getting those cards passed. And then there are other times where you're like, oh, okay, there's no shadow in these first 2 packs. And then be like, wait, this is a really good shadow card. What the heck? And then it's like, we didn't see any time in the first or in pack 2. Why are we seeing all this time in pack 3? We're like, what's going on?
Yeah. So yeah, I agree. Sometimes, you know, despite your best efforts to see those signals, sometimes you misread something somewhere along the lines, or the humans in front of you are just picking random cards from the packs, it turns out, and are not actually planning to play their games.
I have not had much success with Primal due to some of the weaknesses on the faction. However, with that said, I think that with the right cards, discard Flying Muster, there are decks that are great with Primal. I have certainly lost to many decks with Primal, but this is probably my least drafted faction. I draft it when it's open. The mill deck doesn't really a thing for me. I'm trying to think what other curses, not really a thing for me either. I think the most success I've had with Primal is in like a muster build.
Yeah, same. In the yeah, I think my best decks with Primal were Elysian, like muster decks, and I think only one of those actually made it to 7 wins. But yeah, I've done some experimenting with Primal in the format as well, and yeah, along the same lines as Raven, probably had the least success with that faction.
Which is kind of funny because there are some powerful cards in it, but I think it's just the depth of the color of the faction just isn't there to make it relevant. But you know, we have a new set coming out, so who knows, maybe that will change. Maybe they realize this and they're like, all right, time to buff Primal a little bit, you know?
I hope so, because I think Primal's been kind of the weaker, generally speaking, faction for a couple formats now.
Yeah, because you do the 7-win decklist spreadsheet for farming Eternal.
I do, yeah, and Raven submits a lot of 7-win decks, and I can vouch that you know, she doesn't just stick to one thing. You know, she definitely mixes it up a lot and you know, she's totally willing to you know, just go into what's open and try and get to those 7 wins. So
nice, RavenDragon, you're awesome.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on here. Any cards you are higher on than the general public that you know of? Probably not, but I think Flamekeeper, the 4/2 Overwhelm, you have Overwhelm, and Exalted, as well as Tremor Shock, are not as popular, with some as well as Dramatic Exit, which is interesting to me because all those have kind of been high on my radar, but I'm wondering if it's just because I talk with other drafters, or maybe just the EJ crew is kind of on the same sheet of music. The exalted weapons on the right units can make a very hard to deal with unit. Playing Exit on the turn that Shocker is unblockable makes it have to deal. Makes have to deal with unit in a few turns. Okay, fair. I gotcha. The same
that's
with
basically like a Heretics Cannon style play right there.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, you hit him. Wait, it's +4, right? Exit is +4 or +5? It's +4 and
I
it
think
costs
it's
5.
+5, isn't it?
No, I think it's +4 and it cost. Let's look it up while I'm
Sure.
But either way, yeah, because the way it works is when it merges, this Tremor Shocker emerges, it'll have unblockable, so it gets in there. Well, if you play Heretics Cannon, if you play Dramatic Exit, it's going to give it a +X+0.
It's +4.
+4. Okay, it'll give it a +4, giving it 10 attack. It'll get in there for 10, and then at the end of the turn, Dramatic Exit forces the unit to sacrifice itself, but it has Exalted. So now you put the +10 unblockable +6 on something, and yeah, that's pretty gangster, not gonna lie.
That's a good move.
Yeah, kudos to you. That's always fun. I think I managed to do the Dramatic Exit / Emerge combo one time this format, and they immediately killed the unit the next turn. They were like, untap, kill it. I was like, oh.
People don't like to let you have fun, Jedi.
I really don't. Like, I literally never get to have fun. Every time I'm like, we're going to do this for fun, it just, blah. I'm like, got it. And I only do it on stream. When I'm playing by myself, I don't care about being flashy. I just want to win. Like, I do the most boringest things when I'm by myself. But if I'm making a draft video that's not educational or I'm on stream, I'm like, all right, let's do some showmanship here. And they're always like, no.
Well, I'm sure the rest of the viewers are like me, and we appreciate that. So keep it up.
It's just like when the Wizen Crone deck, the Spellcrag draft deck was a thing, and people were getting 4, 6, 8, or no, 6, probably somewhere between 4 to 6 Wizen Crones and just going ham on cards. Like, it happened to me. I went up against the deck twice on stream and it wrecked me, and I was like, oh, this is super fun. I'm going to draft it today for you guys. Never was able to draft it, ever.
Even like when it seemed open, like you're not trying to force it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. What cards have underperformed for you? So far in this format, I have not had success with discard strategies, Wretched Raven, Malaise, Fervent Siphoner cards. I have lost to many of these, however, have not seemed to gather enough synergy in a discard draft deck. Yep, I'm with her on that. And you just said it earlier as well. Yep. Easy enough.
Yeah, I've tried to build that deck too, and it just... it's got so it's a synergy deck, so you need so many pieces for it to be like a top tier deck.
Yeah,
and it can come together, but the chances that it does throughout your draft are not very high.
I mean, it is what it is. Like, we like to consider ourselves good drafters, so we draft what is open, not what we want, and sometimes you end up in the film deck, and you're like, hey, these discard cards are there. Let's go ahead and do it. And it just, it was just I agree with her. It's very underwhelming.
Yeah, I had one draft where I think I got past, it was 5 or 6 of those, not the Wretched Raven, but I think Fearstoker Raven, where it's like a 0/5 and it gets buffed when anyone discards. And so I just kept getting past those. So I'm like, oh yeah, like I'm doing this. Like, I was like, I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna build this sweet, kind of build around mill deck. Not necessarily try to mill them, but mill support kind of strat, maybe self mill, whatever. I literally ended up with 6 of these Ravens, and I could not get a single card that milled. Like, I don't get it. Oh,
that's frustrating. Yeah, and then the worst thing about it is it's not a playable card if you don't have mill. You're just like, oh,
it's so bad. It's just a dumb wall. It can never attack.
Yeah, true story. At least it has flying.
So I mean, it seemed so open. Like it's like the mill deck's open. I keep getting these cards, but no, there just were no mill cards in the packs. It was unlucky like that. So, like I said, it's a synergy deck, so it can come together and be very powerful. Like, I've been beaten by plenty of those on the ladder. I'm sure you have as well.
Yeah. All right.
So,
any helpful tricks or interactions you do not see often that you would like or think are valuable? The interaction between Calamity Oracle, when you play a curse, the enemy player discards the top 5 cards of their deck, and Darkweave Enchantress. Pay 5 and twist Darkweave Enchantress to play a -1/-1 disfigure on an enemy unit. Takes a lot of people by surprise. You can't kill one unit or of the 2 If you can't kill one of the two, the discarding 5 cards per twist can mill you quickly. Blood of Makar with either Cauldron Gunsmith or Skyfire Hellkite buffs all your units in play and can make for some large unit attacks. So yeah, both those are great synergies. I have come down on Blood of Makar. Blood of Makar was very high for me the beginning of the format, and maybe it might have been in that weird pre-release event, now that I think about it, where maybe with the previous set it was stronger of a card, but once we got straight into the Fox format, it kind of lacked luster for me. It's not quite a win more card, but kind of a win more card, because you have to be able to attack and get in. So, but yeah, I can definitely see that either the Cauldron Gunsmith or the Skyfire Hellkite, that when they come into play, they make each one of your units ping your opponent, and definitely trigger some hellacious attacks afterwards with Blood of Makar, obviously giving them all a +2/+0.
Also, Iceberg Scattershot is kind of in that combo category as well.
Oh yeah. Good call.
It's in the format.
Yep, nice. And obviously, to a lesser degree, Razor Quill.
Mm-hmm.
But I do like the Calamity Oracle Dark Enchantress, because yeah, you could just keep twisting Darkweave Enchantress and milling them for 20 while you're decreasing their...
Yeah, and if you end up with multiple of either of those in your deck, that will, I mean, I've been milled out by a deck doing exactly that before. That happens so fast when you have a 45 card deck. That's a real powerful way to mill somebody out.
Oh yeah, plus, I mean, to twist Enchantress, you have to be at 5 power, so you figure you drew your 7 cards plus an additional 5 or 6 cards by that point. So, oh yeah, it'll get you. It'll put the squeeze on you for sure.
That's a fast clock.
Do you prefer this format over the first version of Fox, and why? I am not particularly fond of this format due to the large number of cards in the curated packs. I do like having the Fox packs in the current order, second and third, because I already have an idea of the cards from one of the curated packs, so it is a bit easier to build a cohesive deck. And I can agree with that. You know exactly what you're getting in packs 2 or 3. As far as card bases go, what's actually in the pack can vary. We did see a large, I guess, community outcry about that, where the packs were so large it was just, you couldn't build around anything because you had no idea what you were going to see in packs 2 and 3. Granted, at the time that RavenDragon did answer this, I believe the curated packs or the boosted cards were still at ×3 instead of ×5. I think since we saw them get bumped up to ×5, it's considerably more consistent. So I think that kind of made it a little bit better, but yeah, it definitely was difficult to build around for sure. Anything, John?
No, I think, well, kind of like you said, once they increase the boosted rate, despite the size of the curated draft packs, yeah, there's some consistency there. But yeah, I totally agree with Raven as far as preferring the more ease of kind of knowing what you're getting into going into packs 2 and 3 right now, as far as, the kind of signpost multicolored cards that you can expect to see coming around.
Yeah, it's, I mean, let's be honest, when you're drafting, it's always going to be random, right? We're talking about being able to see 24 cards out of a potential 400 or whatever. So when that's amplified to be even more random, it just makes deck building, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm sure there's people out there that think it's already awesome, but I like to have a rough idea of the deck we're building. And especially when you're taking cards in pack 1, hoping to see an uncommon in pack 2 and 3, that's just a really horrible, that's a recipe for disaster. And then the same thing on the flip side, when you're playing your games, and you're like, okay, they're playing fire, so I could expect these cards, or they're playing primal, so I could expect these cards. And you just have no idea whether they do or don't have those cards. So I can see that being extremely frustrating. But, hey, you live, you learn, you adapt. And obviously, we kind of met in the middle by the draft pack staying, or the pool staying as large as it is, but the ×5 boosted making it a little more consistent.
Yeah, that's kind of worked.
Yeah, I gotta agree.
In a lot of ways, I was pleasantly surprised. I think changing it from ×3 to ×5 was a good move if they wanted to make it a little more consistent like that.
Okay, and this brings us to our closing question here for RavenDragon. Being a consistently top-ranked player, what's your take on the modifications to the ranking system Direwolf recently implemented? Recently, like I said, a little dated, but that's fine. Of course, Direwolf took the time. They didn't tell us what they fixed or how they fixed it, but they modified the way the ranking system works, at least for draft. So that way, the complaint was, for those of you that don't know, is that a lot of streamers like myself, Cassandrith, and people that draft a lot like Cosmo and RavenDragon, there was only so high of a rank we can get because of the variance in draft. You were bound to win, bound to lose some games. But the way the system worked, it felt like a win never generated you as much upward momentum as a loss pulled you down. And so the more you drafted, the easier it was for you to drop in rank and harder to stay high. And so they saw this, and with your end of the month ranking being relevant towards the quarterly championships and things like that, they modified it to where it's a little more consistent. So before we see what RavenDragon said, how do you feel about this, John?
Yeah, they definitely needed to do something, and I think this isn't the first time that they've modified it slightly. Like we mentioned earlier in the cast, Man und Maus, and he used to go. He would get 7 wins and like go down in rank. Like it was broken about a year ago, but at that time the rank didn't mean anything at all. Like there was no, like you just mentioned, quarterly championships and things like that you were trying to qualify for. So, they decided that your rank should matter, and, did not simultaneously make sure that, it was kind of a fair system. But whatever changes they seem to have made definitely seems to have helped out. Let's just say that. Because it's all kind of nebulous, but yeah. I don't think you can go 7-0 and go down in rank anymore or anything like that. So you're not just strictly punished for drafting no matter what if you're a prolific drafter anymore, which is definitely a good thing.
All right, and RavenDragon says, "LOL, not sure about the consistent top ranked player status. I think the changes are great and good for the game. Being able to actually play the format that we enjoy without losing many, many ranks for losses encourages more gameplay, which in turn supports the game that we all love. If you play, there are going to be losses and runs that go 0-3, etc., and it is a plus for the game and drafting." Yeah, pretty much mimicked what you said, so sweet. Awesome. Thank you so much for doing this, RavenDragon. I know there are plenty of people that come across you in the ladder and stuff like that and appreciate it, and the work you put in the Farming Eternal Discord. So thank you so much. You hang out occasionally in our Discord as well, and you're always in stream. It's always great to have you and your expertise. So thank you so much for being on the show, RavenDragon. We really appreciate having you.
Yeah, thanks for doing the interview for us. It was really great to hear some of your opinions on this, because I definitely, respect all of your draft opinions, because you definitely draft even more than I do and seem to really know what you're doing. So yeah, thank you, like Jedi said.
All right, John, you ready for some what's the play action?
Yeah, sure. Let me pull up the screenshot and be ready to go.
All right, cool. So let me break this down. This is brought to us by Darth Herman 2, or Alex, the other co-host, catering and courtesy of Cassandrith, which is a limited streamer. You can catch him streaming. Actually, I don't know his schedule anymore because I'm normally still at work when he's streaming. But
Saturday, Sunday, early in the mornings, and then I think, don't quote me on this, but like Tuesday and Thursday evening sounds right.
Okay, sure. I'll take your word for it. So Cassandra is a top-ranked streamer, so let's break this down. He is going up against a boxer here with Time, Justice, Shadow, 3 power. Cassandra is at 4 of 4 with Time, Primal, Shadow. Life totals are 25 Boxer, 22 Cassandra. Boxer has 3 cards in hand. Cassandra has 6 cards in hand in the form of Dragon Breath, both mentor a unit, and it deals damage. Or wait, is it or is it the spell?
The student deals its power and damage, I think, to
so it will work for mastery. Unit. Okay, yep. And yeah, because deadly matters, I think, right? Yeah, deadly does matter. Yep. Okay. Then we have I forgot, Sapphire Drake, I think. So it's the 6/4.
Sounds right.
6/4 Overwhelm, which it's a 6 cost, so we're going to move on. Death Ripple, which is the 3 shadow cost destroy unit that costs 4 or less, right?
That sounds right.
Yeah, because Extinguish is a 4 attack, so this one's cost 4 or less. We have the robes, the aspirant robes, which is a +1/+1 for 1 time, and it makes a if you spellcraft for 3, I believe it makes a 1/1.
Think so.
Yeah, sorry. And then we have Slope Sergeant, which is a 4/4 6 cost Yeti, which is not going to be relevant for this. On the field, or on the battlefield, we have Cassandra simply has a Trailmaker, which is a 2/1 2 cost unit. And then our opponent has a 3/3 Longhorn with half mastery, so 3 of 6. A Spiketail Karen, a 2/2. And with the added ability that you can pay 6 to give it a +4/+4. And then a Life Speaker, which is the 1/1 cultist that has Inspire Lifesteal on all your units, and then you could pay 4 to make it give it a +3/+3, making it a 4/4. So, John, what would you do here, buddy?
So that Life Speaker is what I'm looking at as far as the biggest current threat. It's Boxer's at 3 power, so they might play an undepleted power next turn and be able to buff that thing. And every time they draw a card, there's a chance that it just gets Inspire Lifesteal. So I'm looking at removing that threat like immediately. As far as the method, 2 Dragon Breaths and a Death Ripple to choose from here. I don't know, probably so Kaz is in Time Primal Shadow. They probably have some things like master units in the deck, none in their hand or anything. I don't know, I'd probably just use this first Dragon Breath, I think. He's got 2 of those in his hand, and his unit is able to just take it out with a Dragon Breath right now. And then like Death Ripple might be a little more relevant on a later turn because of the other 2 units Boxer has. They might get buffed in some way and no longer be easily dealt with a Dragon Breath. So I'm thinking of Dragon Breath on the 2/1 here to get rid of the 1/1.
See,
as far as what that's probably what I would do. What are you thinking, Jedi?
I'm actually a little different here, and I think you have. I'm kind of on your same boat as far as Dragon Breath being really optimal here because of the fact that Death Ripple has applications later. But I actually am looking at the Longhorn as a slightly bigger threat because right now Cassandrath is kind of stuck on power, and they have 2 6-drops in their hand, and I actually don't hate my opponent taking their entire turn 4 off to give a +3/+3 to Life Speaker. So actually, I think what I would do here is to play robes, but not spellcraft it, and then use the Dragon Breath to take out the Longhorn. And the reason being is that if they take their turn to kill the Life Speaker or pump the Life Speaker, then we have Death Ripple to take it out. And if they don't, then we have the second Dragon Breath. And if they do, we have Death Ripple for the Life Speaker, and then we have Dragon Breath that could potentially take out the Kirin, the Spiketail, before they're able to mastery it. So I think denying them a beater in the form of Longhorn, as well as stopping the potential ramp, because then they could ramp up to 5 power next turn.
Yeah, you didn't mention it, but it's on its it's about to hit its mastery if it connects the.
Yeah, so I think for me here, I would be slightly power inefficient. I'm not really worried about the 1/1. Paying 3 for a 1/1 seems kind of lackluster to me, especially on this board. It's not doing much. So I think that would be my line. I think I would play robes on the Trailmaker and then mentor them to take out the Longhorn. And so if they, worst case scenario, next turn, or I mean, obviously worst case, they could play like some kind of 4/4 or not. But if they take their turn to pump, we take 6, we go down to 16, but then we have the Death Ripple or the Dragon Breath that could do some work as well. And they took their whole turn 4 off. So I think that would probably be my line.
I like that line a lot, actually. I like the way you think, Jedi.
Well, sweet. Thanks. Yeah, I did something right. Woohoo!
Yeah, I think that's a totally good line here. Like you said, like his other 2 creatures are a ways off from being played here, and you definitely aren't trying to trade this Trailmaker in combat or anything.
No, definitely not, especially missing power. Yeah,
because it's the reason he's at 4 instead of 3 power right now. That's a good point. Yeah, I think that's a very defensible and possibly better line than what I said.
I don't know. Let us know in the comments below, especially if you're watching this on YouTube. Let us know what you would do in this What's the Play, and yeah, we'd like to discuss it. But all right, that's the What's the Play, which means we're in our final segment, which is boom, 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 the Constructed Corner. So this week for Constructed Corner, we are in spoiler season 4, Echoes of Eternity, but we aren't going to like spoil the whole thing and sit here and talk for an hour on a bunch of different cards. That's what the set review is for. And this is Constructed Corner, so we are going to talk about these cards in a constructed application. So we both picked one card that we are interested to talk about. And so John, go ahead and start us off with your pick, going over your card, please.
Sure. So I thought this was an interesting card. Just wanted to talk about it a little bit. It's called Touch of Resilience. It's a 2 and a shadow fast spell. Reads, give one of your units revenge. Then give a unit, weapon, or spell in your hand revenge.
Ooh, spicy.
So that's somebody brought up in your chat today the question, and I don't know the answer to the question. What if you give a weapon, like a relic weapon, revenge? Like, do spells you cast then have revenge? I now that I'm thinking about it again, I think definitely not, right?
So here's the thing, right? Because they're talking, I think it's deadly, right? Is deadly the one, or is it lifesteal? Like which weapon?
So I think that it's the clause, the blistering clause. I think it says on it, let me look it up, but I think it says you have deadly.
So I think the card has to say you on it, because we're also talking about like Flamekeeper. It says you have Overwhelm.
It definitely does.
So
blistering.
I think you're right. I think the relic weapon has to say you on it. It's not just the relic weapon, because I mean that's
it says you have deadly while you have a unit with deadly, and like the other example is like the Bladering. And
Bladerang.
Final Word is another one too, right?
No, what does Bladerang say? I think it says.
I'm looking that up now. That one just says double damage on it.
See, oh man, that is interesting,
right? So it's not consistent, because that Bladering totally, like, when you cast a damage spell while you have Bladering equipped, that spell has double damage. It doesn't say on it like you have double damage. So, I don't know. Like, I'm not 100% sure, but I don't know. I really don't think that spells will have revenge while you have this relic weapon.
Yeah, because that's just busted.
Especially since it, part of the text of the card is give a spell in your hand revenge. Like, why would you ever do that if you have a weapon and then can then play the spell and have, you know what I mean? Like, that's just a little much, and it's just an uncommon. So I they may be, not perfectly consistent with their wording here, but I think just the weapon would have revenge. Which is still a spicy mechanic.
Oh heck, yeah! I mean, 2 things that come to mind for me is Zoltan Foil for a weapon, because it gives the unit Aegis. No, wait, it doesn't. Wait, does it?
No, it does. That's an interesting one. Zoltan Foil silences a unit when you play it, but then like if the unit dies with the foil on it, it creates an Aegis unit. What you're thinking of?
Yeah.
But like, what's nicer to put a weapon on than an Aegis unit? And like, if you're guaranteed to get the weapon back and a certain number of turns, having that Aegis unit ready is that's a nice example for something.
Your opponent can't play around it either. Like they're like, okay, let me hold this Macto for a turn or two, for the revenge, so it doesn't get silenced, because they don't know whenever it's going to come off the top of the deck again.
So one kind of, I don't know about downside, but just something to think about here is like you can't just use it to give something in your hand revenge, so it's not like fully flexible of a card. You have to have a unit in play.
Yeah, because it says then. Yeah, correct. Okay.
Yeah, so just something to consider there. So it's not just some busted card or anything, but this seems like a fun one, and it seems like it's probably going to be constructed playable.
Yeah,
like revenge has always been kind of a strong mechanic, and there's some pretty fun kind of build around revenge decks that I've played. I enjoyed the mechanic. I'm excited to brew with this one.
Shoot, if you go Feln, you could put this on oh my god, Feast Caller. You attack with Feast Caller, you get your card, they block, you revenge it, you kill one of their units, then when it comes back, it already remembers it attacked once, so it draws you 2 cards the next time.
Yeah, just pairing this, just generally speaking, with Aegis, right? Like
exactly.
Aegis units with revenge. That's 4 removals that the opponent needs now to deal with it, because it's already 2, because it has Aegis, right? You need 2 ways to deal with the Aegis and then deal with the unit, and then in some number of turns you got to do it again.
Slap this on like Valkyrie wings. Like, hey, this unit is big, it has flying, and it has Aegis, and it gets to do it again in a couple of turns.
Yeah, typically your revenge has been more of like an Argenport thing, but I think leaning more into primal with more access to Aegis is probably a fun place to visit with this card.
Oh god, I'm thinking about Winchest. You put Aegis or you put revenge on Akaria or
and there's the fact that it can also do a unit, weapon, or spell in your hand, right? Like that's such a flexible line of text.
Oh my god.
There's got to be some really busted stuff you can do by giving spells revenge.
Yeah, display. You get the display, you get 2 units back, and then you're just trading off. And then your opponent's like, well, they want to kill their units. They have the display coming up, Oh, yeah. God. The shenanigans that can occur here.
This is a sweet one.
Do you know if it will trigger the spellcraft on weapons? You probably would, right?
The weapon would come out, and then you'd get the option as it's played to pay the spellcraft costs.
Oh yeah,
at least that's how it should work. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm slapping this on a Akaria and then on a Vestige.
So you're running Akaria black there, yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Winchest all the way, baby. All right,
sir.
Cool. So it's actually funny that you picked a touch, because my card for this one is actually touch as well. This is Touch of Force. This is so I guess there's a cycle of these. This is the fire one. This is a 3-cost fire spell at fast speed. Touch of Force reads, give one of your units double damage. Then give a unit, weapon, or spell in your hand double damage. So that's the cycle pretty much. Gives a unit in play the effect, and then something in your hand for the most part the effect as well. I think this one is very potent in fire, because the very first interaction that came to mind for me is something like attack with your Eclipse Dragon and then double damage the dragon to get in for 8, and then double damage whatever Torch, Char, Flame Blast in your hand. And it's like next turn, okay, Flame Blast your face for 16. Like, oh,
kablooey.
Yeah, so good. And you can even do this like end of turn. It combos very well with Eclipse Dragon. So what you can do is attack, play the Eclipse Dragon on 5, swing, right? And then you're going to get your 3 power. If they don't kill your Eclipse Dragon or they tap out, you're like, cool, double damage my Eclipse Dragon and give the torch in my hand double damage. Swing for the dragon and torch you.
Yeah, because these are all fast spells this cycle, so that's a great. The first unit that came to my mind is also Eclipse Dragon, because my pet throne deck runs Eclipse Dragons. But yeah, it's piece in a pod, right? Like you say, you just cast it kind of at the end of their turn when you feel like your Eclipse Dragon survived and is going to get to attack. next turn. You've already got the power refund. You get the power for free to cast this. You've probably got a damage spell ready to go in your hand. You might just be able to kill him out of nowhere just next turn, just like that. That's a very exciting proposition.
I think this goes pretty good with some of the listeners too. Oh my god, can you imagine with any of the 5-pip legendaries? Like Rost and Skycrag, or Siditi and Rakano?
Oof.
Or Tazbu in Stone Scar? Oh my god. Stone Scar is going to love this card. You put this on the champion, all of a sudden you're doing 10 damage, overwhelm / deadly.
The double damage on the deadly overwhelm. That's a lot of that's getting through.
Yeah, get out of here.
What their blocking situation is.
Oh, this is definitely going to go in the market of my Winchester deck. You slap this on Akaria or Rizon. Ooh, wait a minute. There's no window. Oh, well, you could still do it too. Oh man, you know what? We've been like, this is just good going double on 2 different units. Like I can play Akaria on 4. Right? Or not Akari, I'm sorry. Vara on 4. Then double damage her at the end of my 5th turn or whatever, at their 5th turn. Double damage Vara and Rizon in my hand. And then Rizon comes down and 6 damages something. Oh.
Oh.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty good right there.
I don't really think that's Magical Christmas Land, man. That sounds kind of doable.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. The traditional Winchester shell, you typically have a unit on play and a unit in your hand. Like that's definitely a mid-range kind of unit-based deck.
Oh god, what else can I do? Double damage Brel.
I mean, you've typically got torches in that deck, and maybe they have a high toughness unit that your torch normally wouldn't be able to deal with. It just kind of amps up what you're already trying to do there.
What other busted things does that deck do? I'm trying to think. Nothing really off the top of my head. I mean, double damaging a Runehammer seems kind of spicy.
Yeah, it's not usually in like the same FGS deck necessarily, but other shells are like a more armory version. Yeah. That thing's getting 2 swings in.
Oh god, that sounds so good.
Yeah.
Strangers. What else? Not strangers. Merch smugglers. Ooh, this would be. I mean, we're talking about 3 color again, but putting this with like Mila and Izo, or Izo and Mila, or whatever. What?
Nothing. That's
like it just. Oh yeah. All right. Cool. So there you have it, guys. Touch of Force. You got the touch.
Yeah, you got the power.
Hey, I see what you did there. All right, sweet. Well, that's the end of our Constructed Corner, which means we're towards the end of our show, guys. So, or I say guys, but I guess I'm talking to the public. That's what it is. I'm talking to listeners. Okay.
You all.
Yes, you all. So,
y'all.
What's up, y'all? All right. So, John, where can people reach you at, buddy?
Yeah, I can always be found in Jedi's chat during any of his streams, Jedi's Discord, EternalJourney Discord, and then also the Farm Eternal Discord for sure. I also stream occasionally at twitch.tv/Johnholio.
Sweet. Don't be afraid to join the Discord. So John will post in there in your alert channel whenever he goes live, so you guys know, since it's infrequent yet. I'm trying to get him to get on a schedule, but we'll see what's up. Of course,
my computer hasn't been to me lately, so
fair.
I'm having some technical difficulties, unfortunately.
Fair. All right, I am Jedi. Of course, you can catch me streaming live every Sunday, Monday, Tuesday at twitch.tv/Jedi_EJ. You can catch all of this video of this podcast as well as great other things on the YouTube. So just look up Eternal Journey or Eternal Journey on YouTube. You'll find all the great stuff there, including my updates. And don't forget, we cube draft every Sunday. It's absolutely free. Would love to have you. We have powered as well as budget cubes, so it is family friendly. And shout out to the Misplay. Hopefully they our sister podcast. They did the bumper at the beginning of the show, and they were absolutely fantastic. So give some love to Parmalee and Gato Sujo. Congratulations on them launching their team and their website. So definitely check out. They also have a great comic going on there. I don't know how frequent they're going to do it, but I'm excited to see that. It's going to have like a Penny Arcade-ish feel to it.
Yeah, their website looks great. Congrats, guys.
Yeah, good job. Kudos to you guys. And that will do it. So tune in. Make sure you guys tune in next week where we start. Hopefully, we're going to have our sunset show for sending off Flames of Zulta. And then we will start prepping for Echoes of Eternity. But that's going to do it, guys. So until next time, as always, happy gaming.
Bye, y'all.